All right, everybody, so this is the Community Preparedness 101 emergency management class that I'm holding for you, the public, so that you can understand a little bit about what it is that I do, and then really just to better yourself as far as it goes for preparedness. And as we're going to talk about, it's really important to be here because preparedness starts with you. If anything were to happen, whether it's a hailstorm, severe thunderstorm with a lot of wind, knock on wood, if it's a tornado, you are going to be the first ones impacted, right? It might hit your house, you might be driving and you see something coming, so you need to know how to act. If you're impacted, you might call 911, fire is going to come out, police is going to come out, but before they get there, it's really up to you to keep yourself, breathing, alive, get yourself to a safe location so that when we get there, you're good to go. We want to minimize any damage for yourself and also your property. So sorry. I'm Lauren Sanchez. I'm the Emergency Management Specialist for the City of Farmers Branch, housed at the Fire Department.
I'm Chris Garrett. I'm the Crime Prevention Officer for Farmers Branch. I've been a police officer for 12 years, and the last little over 9 of it have been here in Farmers Branch.
So I'm going to go through my portion of the presentation as far as the emergency management side, and then I'm going to pass it over to Officer Garrett, and he's going to go over active shooter, home security, and then really any other questions that you guys have for him or myself at the end of the presentation. So like I alluded to, preparedness starts with you, and we've gone over the key points. You are going to be the first one impacted. Also, fire and PD are going to be impacted, so while they get themselves ready to come help you, it's important that you know what to do to better yourself so that you make it out safe and also your property makes it out as least damaged as possible. So what is emergency management? Can anyone tell me? Does anyone have an idea of what I do? What an emergency management specialist might do? No? Okay. I'm still learning every day too, it's fine. So as far as emergency management, it's a cycle, and it's a continuous cycle. It never stops and it never ends. It just repeats itself. And as we explain it, it might make more sense. So first, you're going to start with mitigation. So this is where you prepare for something and you want to lessen the impact that it could have on you. So for example, the illustration up here is a dam. The dam wasn't there before. Of course, it's a river with a lot of water, but they built this dam here to hold the water to protect everything downstream. They don't know if they really need to protect it. Maybe the water flowing is going to be fine and it's never going to hurt whatever's downstream. But just in case it might, let's go ahead and do this. So that's mitigating. And you can do that at home too. We're going to go through some steps you can take. And hopefully the information you learn here, you take it home and you mitigate your home, you mitigate yourself by making some kits and some plans. But we'll get there. And then it moves to the preparedness phase. And that's also what we're doing today. You want to prepare. When preparing yourself, you want to know what you're up against and what you need to do to avoid that or protect yourself from that if it is going to happen. Does that make sense? And then you get your event. So in this cycle, that's when something happens. That's when the tornado happens. That's when the hail happens. If you're on the coast, that's when the hurricane happens. And that's when you put all of your plans into effect. So this is where you're really tested to see if what you did was good enough. So after that happens, then we get into the response phase. And in the response phase, of course, everyone thinks the lights, the flashing lights, the fire department's going to come out, the police department's going to come out, and they're going to help you. But you are also responding, you guys are also responding as well. So you in your home, before we get there, I'm running out of breath. I'm losing my voice. I'm trying to keep it together. Before we get there, like I've talked about before, it's up to you to make sure that you're okay, so you are also responding. And then you get into recovery. So after the fact, after everything's okay, there's no immediate danger, immediate threat, that's when we start rebuilding. And that's also when you look at all your plans and look at your mitigation techniques to see if there's anything you could do better, so that the next time, if it ever happens again, you know what to do and you're better prepared. Does that make sense? Okay. So what hazards do we face here in North Texas? Tornadoes, we have severe lightning, we have hail, we have floods, we even have ice. If you guys have been here for a few years, we had the big ice storms. And then as far as outside of severe weather, you also have hazards. So things you might not think about, but hazmat spills, we have a lot of highways, a lot of big highways that travel right around Farmers Branch. And a lot of things could happen, a serious car crash, or even a spill, and there's a lot of things traveling that it's marked on there what it is, but until we get to that scene to find out what's spilled, it really could be anything. We also have active shooters, acts of terrorism, and then everyone remembers Ebola, or even an outbreak of the flu could be bad. So these are a lot of things we have to prepare for. And the good thing about preparedness is when you prepare, you can prepare for pretty much all of these at the same time. You don't have to specifically say, you know, this is what I would do in a tornado and it doesn't apply to anything else, because that's not true. Once you make your kit, you can use it for most of these things. Once you plan in your mind, okay, if I had to evacuate for any number of reasons, this is where I would go out of town. So once you sit down and start putting these things together, you're ready for all the things that we face here in North Texas. So I put these on here just so you could see how prone we are to some of these things. Thunderstorms is a big one. On your phones, you might get a lot of alerts from the National Weather Service that say, you know, we're getting severe weather, and it's typically thunderstorms. Thunderstorms, if you look for where we are, we average 50 days a year of thunderstorms. And then if you look over here, the National Weather Service considers thunderstorms severe if there's hail at least 1 inch in diameter, winds over 58 miles an hour, and then of course if it results in a tornado. And then tornadoes, those tornadoes are bad. That's the thing we fear the most. Luckily, it doesn't happen very often, but if it did, we'd know it'd be detrimental. So in our area, 155. Most people think of what the Oklahoma, some of the other states when they think of tornadoes because of Tornado Alley. But looking at this, it's really Texas that gets hit the most, and it's our region in Texas that gets hit the most. I actually learned, I couldn't find a slide to put on here, but I went to a training that TDM, which is the State Emergency Management Department, put on, and they were saying that our region of North Texas, the Dallas-Fort Worth area, is the most disaster-prone region in the whole United States. So you think, you know, Florida gets a lot of hurricanes, California gets a lot of wildfires, and they do. We're not taking that away at all, but our region has the most because of all the flooding, because of the hail, because of all the things that we face combined. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, but the question is, we don't seem to get a lot. Plano North gets a lot of hail damage, and as the tornadoes are being mostly out in the country, they don't seem to hit us in the city.
Okay, so not Farmers Branch specific, but just our region of North Texas. Okay. So the whole, so imagine Dallas Metroplex, Fort Worth Metroplex, just this whole area. So Plano would be included in there. So you're right. Plano's hail numbers are definitely adding to that total. Rowlett, when they got hit, at the same time, I think 12 tornadoes touched down. So that's adding to our total. It's also adding to the state total, but as far as a region, we have the most, which I thought was interesting. So I chose a good place to work in my field because I'll never have a boring day. Okay, so how do we know what's coming? As far as tracking the weather, which is a big part of it, when we think of emergencies and what we need to prepare for, yes, there's other hazards like active shooters. Those are harder to plan for. Severe weather is one thing we can kind of predict. So that's what we'll focus on here. So we work very closely with meteorologists. I'm sure you do as well. You have a news channel you watch, you listen to the radio to get your weather outlook. So we do it very similarly. I have venues that I use to stay connected with the National Weather Service. Our closest one is actually in Fort Worth, which is not far from here. They're really close. They come to our meetings, we go to their meetings, we stay very interconnected all the time, have each other's cell phone numbers, so if anything happens, we can call each other, and then I can push out any information to the public as quickly as possible. So a watch versus a warning as far as weather. A weather watch means that conditions are favorable, and this one you have more advanced notice. So this can be issued up to 6 hours ahead of time. And then so the picture on one side, you might get a weather watch on your phone, and a lot of people dismiss it because you look outside and this is what you see and you think there's no way something bad's gonna happen, so you just go about your day and don't think about it. But unfortunately, as we've learned, conditions can quickly change. So what used to look like a nice sunny day can look like this. And if we have an event planned outdoors, or you have an event planned outdoors, this could be very bad. So if you get a watch, don't blow it off. It means watch the conditions. See? It's a good way to remember. If you get a watch, just watch the weather. So if something happens, you're prepared. And then a weather warning, on the other hand, means that severe weather is forming and it's been detected on the radar and it's about to happen, or it's happened and somebody spotted it. And these, you don't have much time. So if you get one of these, you know it's bad, you need to move immediately. So what to do? If you get a watch or a warning, here's what we advise. You want to get inside. If you're outside, that's not safe for you. You've seen the tornado movie, you've seen things on the news. You don't want to be outside. If at all possible, get indoors anywhere. Once you're inside, you want to stay away from windows. So looking at the room we're in now, that's good. There's no windows. You want to avoid windows because in high winds or if there's flying debris, windows get crashed in and you don't want to get cut, and then you don't want to be subject to the winds or debris that's getting blown in. You also want to get to the lowest level, and then you want to get to the most interior room. And I have a picture here that I'll show you, but you don't want to be on an exterior wall because that's what's getting the wind. So if that falls down, you want to be as far away from that as possible. You also want to monitor your weather conditions. You don't want to get inside and hide in a closet and then just stay there. You want to bring your phone with you. You want to bring a weather radio with you so you can keep an eye on what's happening outside. And then if you have an emergency kit, bring that with you, and then get in, get down, and cover up. So I put this on here when I mentioned the interior room. I saw this picture at a presentation that somebody else was teaching, and this is the picture that they had that was actually from Rowlett. So, oh, you can't see my mouse. So if you look at the picture, you see this outside of the house, and the only thing that's left standing is the most interior room. So of course I've told people, interior room, interior room, interior room, and then I finally saw this picture and it really hit home, like, yeah, you really do need to get into the most interior room. Part of the planning that we're going to go through later in your house or even at work, anywhere that you spend a lot of time, you do want to identify, and you don't have to put a sign on there if you don't want to, but in your mind, you need to know where it is. So in your home, especially if you have family, if your grandkids come over, if your kids come over, you want to make sure everyone who might be there knows where it is. So yeah, like you said, walk around your house and then just tell everybody, if something happens, this is where we're going. How Farmers Branch communicates with you during an emergency. Because if I find out that something's happening, I need to make sure that you know that something is happening. Okay, so the first one is the outdoor warning sirens. I have a slide on the outdoor warning sirens, so I'll break down exactly where they are, give you some more information about those. But that's one way. If something's happening, we will sound the outdoor warning sirens. In the past, they've been referred to as tornado sirens, and that's kind of what people think of when they see those. We're trying to move away from that to let people know that it's not just a tornado that we will warn you for using those. Does that make sense? So if there's a hailstorm, we can activate them. If there's really high winds, that could be dangerous, we'll activate it. If there's a big outdoor event and there's an active shooter nearby, we might activate it to tell you something's going on and you need to get out of the area. And then BranchAlert. BranchAlert, I actually have a slide on this, so I won't take up that for you. But when we get to there, I'll explain how to get it, why it's important, and then I actually have instructions for you to take home with step-by-step how to sign up. And then social media. If you're big on social media, you feel free to follow the fire department and also the police department. And Officer Garrett is really good. If you follow the police department, you know he posts a lot on both platforms. So if something might happen or if something is currently happening and you happen to be on one of these, he puts updates on there pretty regularly. And then in the middle, you have a weather radio. Does anybody have a weather radio? Oh, good. Okay, good. So if you talk to the people here that raise their hands, they could tell you how important they are. These are really good to have because they're battery powered, but then they're also electric, so you plug them in. And it's important that they're battery powered because if there's a storm and you're sleeping and the power goes out, if something happens and it trips your weather radio based on the settings you've inputted, that'll go off, and it is very loud. So you will not sleep through it. And then you get up and check your weather radio and it'll tell you what's going on. That there's a tornado alert, and then you know that you need to activate your plan that you've set up and get to the safe spot in your home. And then also the wireless emergency alerts. I'm sure you guys have gotten those on your phone. It starts beeping. Those actually are put out by the National Weather Service. So if they get something on their radar that affects the area, they push those out to your phones. Outdoor warning sirens. So we have 8 of these across Farmers Branch. I'm sorry the picture's a little small, but if you look, there's 8 blue dots around the city. And those are strategically placed so that when they go off, the sound covers everybody. We have a lot of development on the west side of town, so we are looking at getting another siren possibly put out there so that the width will cover all those new homes that are coming in. So like I mentioned before, these are not just tornado sirens. There's a lot of other things that we'd set these off for, but it's also really important to remember that they're outdoor warning sirens. So if you're inside your home, you might not hear these, especially if there is a storm going on with high winds and it's loud, you almost definitely won't hear these. So we use these if you're outside. If we have an event at the historical park, if there's soccer games going on at the soccer fields, these are to warn people who are outside that something bad is happening, so they need to get inside. Also, we test these the first Wednesday of every month. So if you hear these and the sky is perfectly blue and it's the first Wednesday of every month, it's probably us testing them. So if you hear them and are ever worried, give us a call and we can let you know if it was a test or not.
Is it still about 1 o'clock?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. 1 p.m. every first Wednesday of the month. We will not test them if the weather looks bad. If it's dark outside, cloudy, it's raining, we won't do it because we don't want to scare you. We only want to use it if it's real. Okay, BranchAlert. I love BranchAlert. I want all of you to sign up for BranchAlert. So what this is a mass notification system that the city uses to communicate with you. The platform we use is Everbridge, if you've heard of it or used it through work. So what this does is it allows you to receive alerts that we push out and also the National Weather Service will push out to you via text, via phone call, or an email, depending on what you would prefer. You can get emergency alerts, so most of them are going to be weather related. If I see a tornado watch, we'll push that out. If there's a tornado warning, we'll push that out. If there's high winds, we'll send that to you. If there's an active shooter somewhere, we can send that to you. And then also non-emergencies, we can push out to you if there's a big event in town. We could send that to you. We haven't done that yet, but I think we want to focus on the emergency so that if you get an alert, you know it's something you really need to pay attention to. So what you do is you go to the Farmers Branch website and the new page, if you've seen it, there's a new search bar right in the middle, and right under that there's icons, and one of them says BranchAlert. And like I said, in these blue bags I'm going to give you, there's step-by-step instructions how to sign up. So I would highly suggest that you sign up. You can also, trying to think how to phrase it, some people didn't like the system because they would get alerts while they were sleeping. So one of the features now that you can do is you can set a time where you would not like to receive alerts. So if you go to bed 10 p.m. to 7 a.m., you can say that's a time you don't want to get notifications. Unless it's a tornado warning, that's automatically going to get sent out. But I assume that's something you want, so. Okay, preparedness. So that's the bulk of what we're here to talk about today. About all the stuff you get to take home and prepare within your home, spread the information to everyone you know. The more prepared citizens we have, the better the community is as a whole. So these are just a few questions for you to ask yourself and then some things to take home if you need to work on some of these. Do you have safety measures in place at your home? Smoke detectors, fire extinguishers. Do you know what to do in case of severe weather? If you're at home, if you're at work, if you spend a lot of time at the library, do you know what you're going to do if you're here at the library? Do you have an emergency plan? And does everybody in your household know the plan? So smoke detectors. Does everybody have smoke detectors in their home? Very good. So here's some information. It's important to remember that your smoke detector, you need to change the batteries, what?
Twice a year.
Twice a year, right? Perfect. And then you need to replace the whole smoke detector. It's recommended every 10 years. Because even though you're changing the batteries, and when you test it, it might sound, but the system itself should be replaced every 10 years just to make sure that everything is good. Per city code, it is required that these are hardwired into your home. So if yours are hardwired, we recommend that you get an electrician out to do the replacing so that they can set it up and make sure everything's good for you. Fire extinguishers. Okay, so if you do not have a fire extinguisher, I recommend you get at least one. And when you have one, this is how you want to use it. We use pass. So if you're looking at the fire extinguisher, as you see up here on the screen, there's a pin at the top. And that's just a safety mechanism. You pull the pin, and then you're gonna grab this nozzle right here. You wanna aim it at the base of the fire, right? Because that's where the heat's being generated, so that's what you wanna kill first. You aim it at the base. You're gonna squeeze on the side, and it's not hard to squeeze once you pull the pin. You can squeeze it easily. And then you wanna sweep slowly from side to side at the base of the fire. We do fire extinguisher trainings with a lot of businesses in Farmers Branch, and people test it out and either aim above the flames or they sweep it too fast because they want to put it out as quick as possible. But you have to remember slow and low. Low at the base and move it slowly. So when you're doing this, you want to keep your back always to the exit. So if that door is your exit, you want to keep your back to it, because if the fire gets too big and out of control, you want a clear path out. You always want to call 911 even if you put it out, especially if it's a kitchen fire. On your stove, you want to call 911 so the fire department will come out just to verify that there's no heat anywhere, not in your walls, not hiding somewhere, so that when you leave, it'll ignite itself because there's still some heat. And then these last about 10 years, so if you have one that's more than 10 years old, you might want to replace it. And it's also important to remember that if you use it once and you just squeeze a little bit, it's useless after that. You have to replace it. Yes, ma'am, because it'll lose its charge. So there might still be the material on the inside, and if you squeeze it, it'll come out. But if you sit it back on your shelf and go to grab it the next time, there's no guarantee that it's gonna work. So once you use it, just take it outside, spray it, and that's a good time to practice. So if you have kids or grandkids and you have a fire extinguisher that you need to get rid of, let them practice. Go into the backyard, spray it all out, and then you can use your water hose and clean off all the material from your grass. And then at that point, you'll just throw it in the trash can, and you can just go buy a new one. And I didn't cover the ABC, but on all smoke detectors, if you see on this, I keep saying smoke detector, sorry, fire extinguisher, down the side it says A, B, and C. Those are the best ones to have. It means that it'll cover all of these things. So your ordinary combustibles, your flammable liquids, and also electrical. So if you can get an A, B, C extinguisher, I would recommend it. That's the best one to have. It's good to have one near the kitchen. You never want to put it right next to the stove, because the stove is the place fires typically happen in the home, so you don't want to put it right next to the stove, because if it's huge, you're not going to be able to get to it. So near the kitchen somewhere, depending on how big your house is, you might want to put one near bedrooms. Some people keep one in the garage in case something happens in the garage, if they keep tools or if they do handiwork in there and there's fire or any kind of flame involved. I'll find out though if there's a recommendation, but it's really your preference. You have 3, so you can have as many. We have one gentleman in the fire department who's a fire investigator, and he has, I want to say he has 6 or 7 in his home. So just as many as you want. Just remember to check them. Make sure they're charged, make sure after 10 years you replace them. Okay, emergency planning. So these are just a few of the things that you can have in your plan. I always advocate for you to write this down so that if you forget something, here's your reference of what you talked about that you were gonna do. And then if your kids come over, your grandkids come over, someone moves in and is living with you for a while, you just give them this. And you're like, here's our plan, this is what we're gonna do. I'd like if you were familiar with what the plans are here. So the first thing you can do, what you should do, is a home evacuation route. These are really big in fires. So I work at the fire department, so we tell everybody you should definitely have one of these. A lot of people don't have it written out or drawn out. They just know how they would get out of their home. But it is important to draw it just to make sure that what you're thinking in your mind is actually possible. If you're on the 2nd floor and think you're going to go out the window, you might want to go look to make sure you can actually get out of that window. So it's always important to draw the layout of your house. You always want to mark all your exits, your doors, your windows, and then you always want 2 ways out. So it's the 9th through the 14th, I want to say, was National Fire Prevention Week. And the motto this year is every second counts, plan 2 ways out. So now you know it too. You always need 2 ways out of every single room. So that's what you want to draw on here. And then you also want to mark a meeting place. So if you're going to go across the street to the neighbor's mailbox, if you're going to go to the tree on the other side, you want to be away from the home, away from any fire that could spread. But you want to make sure everyone knows where your meeting point is, so that if you make it out of the house in the front door, and your husband goes out a different way, and your daughter goes out another way, everybody knows where to go, so that you're not outside of your house wondering, did they make it out? Do I need to go back in? Because you never want to go back in. And then when the fire department shows up and asks you, is everybody at the house? You just do a quick head count at your meeting place. You know exactly what to tell them. You also want to keep copies of important documents, and then you want to keep them in a bag. So I should have taken one of these apart, but let me show you. So all of you will be taking these home, and in here I put these document bags. So this is just a fancy one, any Ziploc, thick plastic Ziploc you can use. This is just protected from water in case your house were to flood. And you can mark on here what you put. Copy of your ID, copy of your birth certificate, copy of medications you need, whatever you'd like. You put in here, you put this in your emergency kit bag, so if something happens, you grab it and you go, because you already know what you need is inside. And what you want to put in there is completely up to you. Last time we did this, we had a lot of questions. What about this document versus this document? I can't tell you right or wrong. It's whatever you think you would need. Also, a communication plan is very important. A lot of people are very reliant on their cell phones. If I had to tell you my brother's new cell phone number, I don't think I know it on the top of my head. I'd rely on my phone for that information. And a lot of people do. If you remember all the numbers in your phone, I applaud you. But there is a paper in here where you can write it down. You put everyone's contact name, put their phone number, put their address, so that when you grab your bag and go, you can look through and you know exactly what you need. These are also very important with kids, especially kids that don't have cell phones yet. There's wallet-sized versions in there, so grandkids, maybe you want to write everyone's information and they can put it in their backpack. If they have a wallet, put it in their wallet. So if they're ever somewhere, they can pull it out and they know who to call. Pre-designated locations out of town, like we saw with Harvey, a lot of people had to evacuate. They had to leave their home quickly. So here is where you want to pre-designate where you would go. You have a friend that lives in San Antonio, so you call them up one day and ask, hey, if something happens and I have to leave, can I come stay with you? Okay, what's your address? Maybe if it's not San Antonio and you can't get there, someone lives over here and you call that person. As a backup, can I come visit you? Okay, perfect. Here's their address. So this is the family emergency plan. Like I said, you just list everybody's name, number, their address. Here's the emergency wallet card. So you're just going to cut these out. They're very small. You fold them up, put them in a purse, in a wallet, a kid's backpack, in your car, maybe in your glove box. And I think this is on the next slide, but also a disaster supply kit. So this, like I said, has a list of things you can include in your kit, but it may be different for you. Some things you might not want, and there's also other things you might want to include. So it's up to you. This is just a starting point. So it tells you what to include in there, also what to put in your car, if you want one in your car, if you want one at work, and then also your pets. If you have a pet, you need to make a kit for each pet, and on here it gives you some guidelines about what to include. And then I also have some pamphlets that you can read through with more information on disasters and what to do. The more information, the better. And I'll put that back together for the person that gets it. Okay, so emergency supply kits. Like I talked about, you're going to get a checklist that lists out some suggestions. So here's some things. And then as far as what you use as your kit is completely up to you. A lot of people I know use backpacks. Some people even use rolly backpacks, which is what I have, because if you don't want to carry it and it's heavy, you just roll with it. A suitcase, a small suitcase would work just fine. Some people use tubs, so you go buy a tub with a lid on it, that'll work just well. And then also duffel bags. The thing to remember about these though, whatever you put into this bag, you have to carry somewhere. And one of the things that you have to put in there, of course, is water. Does anybody know the requirements for water in an emergency supply kit? A gallon a day per person. Do you know how heavy a gallon of water is?
8.3 pounds per gallon.
Yeah, thank you. It's heavy. So just think about you. If you had to grab this and go, put it in something that you know you can grab and go. That's why I use the rolly bag. And then also for your pets, like I mentioned, you need to have a kit per pet. So if you have 2 dogs, it doesn't have to be a huge kit, but we just suggest a smaller kit. And the reason we split them up is, say you go to a shelter and your pets need to go to an alternative shelter. They might split up your 2 pets. So that way you have a kit for each pet. If you want to do one big kit for both of your dogs, that's fine. You just have to be able to move the one big kit. Or train your dog to wear it, like a small backpack or something, and your dog can pull it.
What's the whistle for? Oh, signal for help.
Yes, so if there's a tornado and you're stuck in your home, like that house that we saw, if you're in that middle room, but you're blocked in and you can't push your way out, you use a whistle. Just so you're not yelling and you use out your voice, and then you can't scream for help. So you use a whistle. And these are just suggestions, so yeah, anything you want. But if you put canned goods, you need a can opener, right? Let's not forget a can opener. So just as you go through these, medication's a big thing. If you need medication, I wear glasses, so I need to make sure I have spare glasses in there. Phones, make sure you put a phone charger. What's preferred is the chargers that you don't have to plug in. They already come pre-charged and you just plug your phone into that, so you have some extra juice in case you need to call somebody. And if you have specific questions on this, of course, let me know. But like I said, just guidelines. Whatever you think you need, put it in there. Okay, so just an overview. Preparedness starts with you. I really can't advocate it enough. I have to be prepared. Officer Garrett needs to be prepared. Each of you needs to be prepared. So like I mentioned, all of you are going to get to take home some handouts. These are the things that I went through with you. There's also more, so if there's children, grandchildren that you want to give this information to, I have some coloring books with information so they color and do activities while learning. So feel free to grab as many of those as you would like. Home fire prevention booklet, because it was Fire Prevention Month. I got some handouts from Wendy Kimpton to put in here, so all of you have information on that. Pet safety handouts. I also have another handout up here. It's information for older Americans, and on there it'll break down more medication needs, things like that. So if you want to grab one of those, please feel free. And then also we have information about the Fire Citizens Academy and also the Police Academy if you want more information on that from Officer Garrett. It's very easy to make a great supply kit and you put it in your house, and one day you're cooking and you're like, oh, I really need this and I know it's in my supply kit, so I'm just going to go grab it and I'll put it back later, and then you never do. So just either make a checklist so you know what's in there, or make a rule that you won't touch your supply kit unless you need it. The other thing too I forgot to mention is when you have your supply kit, you want to check it every year just to make sure that the batteries in there still work, that any food that you put in there is not expired. And also, when putting these together, it's asking for you to put a lot inside of this kit, and I don't want you to break the bank trying to put these together. So I always tell people, just do it in pieces. This time when you go grocery shopping, you buy the bag you're going to put it in. The next time you go grocery shopping, you're going to get extra water. The next time you buy a whistle and a flashlight. So slowly you build this up. Good? Any other questions?
Water lasts.
Sorry?
How long does the water, can you keep the water in there?
So it depends. Depending on where you keep it, if you're going to keep it in the garage where it's hot, you don't want to leave it in there for very long, especially if it's in a, like plastic bottled water, because as you know, once your bottled water gets hot, you want to avoid it because the plastic can seep into your actual water. They do sell emergency water, though. If you go online, you can buy it, and it'll come in like a carton, and those will last a lot longer. Those have a longer shelf life, and it'll tell you. But if you keep your kit inside the house, in the air conditioning, maybe in your room, in your closet, you can keep it in there longer. I don't know the exact recommendation for plastic water bottles.
There's expiration dates on the bottles.
Oh, okay, you're right. So I would just adhere to that. If it tells you, and you could even look, so a month or two before it expires, you go take it out and drink it so you don't waste it, and then you just put new stuff in there. But no, great question. Just check them regularly. Any other questions?
Now this is going to the extreme. But
No, that's okay.
Looking at if the water gets contaminated, what to buy to help clean out the water so you in fact can't drink it if you actually have to, in case of severe flooding or sewage overflow or whatever like that?
No, great point, great point. So they do sell stuff online where you can go and they'll buy, they sell tablets. So if you have your contaminated water and you put these tablets in there, it'll clean it. You can also use bleach, but look it up online.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you any measurements because I don't want to be wrong, because if you do it wrong and drink bleach, that could be bad. But there is a technique where you can use bleach and you put it in this water and let it sit for a certain amount of hours and it'll clean it enough where you can drink it. But another helpful tip, I'm glad you brought this up, is if you know that something's coming, no matter what it is, it's always recommended to fill up your bathtub. So clean out your bathtub and then fill it and then put the stopper in there so you have water. And then that's what you and your family use. You know, you move it over to the sink and that's how you're gonna wash your hands. You take that to the stove and that's how you're gonna cook. So I have family in Corpus Christi. Of course, for Harvey, they did this to prepare just in case, but also a year before, they had a spill at one of the oil refineries and their water was contaminated. And luckily they had filled up their bathtub and then they got issued a no water ban. So they couldn't use it to shower, to do anything, but they had the tub filled up. So they were able to take that outside and could rinse off. So that's a good thing. Always fill up your bathtub, maybe your sinks, store some jugs of water. But they do sell things online that you could uncontaminate it with. I'm not too familiar with those, but you could buy those and put them in your kit. Okay, perfect. Well, I won't take up all the time, so I appreciate you listening. I'm going to pass it over to Officer Garrett.
All right. So I just wanted to talk to y'all about a few little things that you can do that are very inexpensive to protect your home. All right. How many of you have installed door locks on your homes before? Okay. And how many of you installed the screws that came with the door locks with those locks? Okay. And how long are those screws? They're about 3/4 of an inch? Okay.
Not about that long.
So a little bit longer. All right. So most of the time, if someone breaks into your house, how do you think that they're going to get in?
Kick the door in.
They're going to kick the door in because it's easy to do. Okay. The only thing standing between them and getting into your house is those little 3/4 inch screws. All right. It's not going to really slow them down. You know, 1, 2, maybe 3 kicks and they're in. All right. So a simple thing to do, you can go right down here to the hardware store and buy 3-inch hardened steel screws. You take those screws and replace all of the 3/4 inch screws that are in your strike plates and your hinges on your doors. Just replace those and that will prevent them from kicking the door in. They still possibly could get in, but most likely, you know, by the time they've kicked, 10, 15, 20 times, they're tired and they're going to move off to somewhere else. All right. Or they're going to, maybe look for something else. But ultimately, what are you trying to do? You're trying to slow them down. Because the good thing about Farmers Branch is there's a lot of nosy neighbors, right? I mean, that's really a good thing. It really is when you think about it. Because everyone knows everyone, right? And when you see someone over at your neighbor's house that you don't know or you don't recognize, what do?
Give them a call.
You give them a call, you go over there, you might say something to them, you're watching them. Well, if they have to, be sitting at your door for several minutes trying to get in, or, maybe they kick it and they don't get in the first 2 or 3 times, and by that time you've noticed them, you can call us. Our response time is pretty low, isn't it? So we're going to be able to make it there quick and get them into custody. So just to prove to you, how simple this is and how strong it makes the door, I've got a video that I'm going to show you that Victoria Police Department made up. And the only thing that they're doing is switching out these screws. All right.
All right, today we're going to be demonstrating the security of a door. This is a standard door. It's your everyday door frame. You got a wooden door, deadbolt lock with a 1-inch throw, and the lock's actually entering a metal strike plate that's attached to the wooden trim here. The weak point of this door is going to be your strike plate, where the deadbolt actually enters the trim. 9 times out of 10 on any standard door, the strike plate's going to be attached with small 3/4 inch screws. That's going to be your weak point. We'll demonstrate a standard door, and then we'll demonstrate a strengthened door. All right, here we go. We have our burglar, and he's going to kick the front door in. Maybe. Oh, shoot. Perfect. The last one was perfect. And this is an example of what I was talking about. Okay, the only thing keeping that deadbolt in was this small bit of trim here, and which completely tore away from the door frame itself. The 3/4 inch screws are gone. The strike plate is in here somewhere. That's all it takes. One good strong kick and this little thin door frame is no good. That's the only thing keeping a bad guy out of your house. Okay, with our previous door, we saw the results of having 3/4 inch screws attaching the strike plate. To this door frame, we've attached a strike plate with 3-inch screws. They'll actually go through the framework into the 2x4 itself. We're going to cue our burglar, and if it works out well, this door will be dramatically stronger than the previous door. Let's try it out. Good one right in the middle there.
My little legs can't reach that high.
All right. Well, this door was a bit weaker than we expected, but our work held. 3-inch screws. As long as you don't have an extremely weak door, this may be all it takes. Of course, even with a door this weak, it does increase your reaction time, so you could call 911 if needed. During our last demonstration, we discovered that the weakest link in our security chain, so to speak, was the door itself. The hardware on the frame actually held. Well, now we've got another door. This is your standard house door. This is a metal-clad door, so it's going to be a lot stronger than the one we just demonstrated on. Once again, we've removed small screws from the strike plates and replaced them with the 3-inch screws. Now, we're going to do a demonstration on this one, see what happens.
Ready?
You about to get it though. When you push it, sheetrock. Holy cow! Now that was awesome. Yes, it is.
Three-inch screws still in there. Doing these experiments is actually quite interesting. We always recommend the 3-inch screws, and you can see they held. In this case, however, the door is still attached to the frame. The frame is just no longer attached to the stud here. So, one thing we've just now discovered, and one thing we can all recommend now, is to attach this door frame to these studs with longer screws. To be honest, in my 25 years as a police officer, I've never seen a door defeated in this manner. 9 times out of 10, it's right here. But I'll bet you, if we were to put 3.5, 4-inch screws into this wouldn't have happened. We're running out of doors, so I'm just going to have to take a guess on that one. All right, see you next time, folks.
So I've always recommended to put the screws into the hinges. What I did at my own house is, so you've got 3 hinges on the door. Each hinge has 4 screws. I took 2 of those screws out of each hinge and changed them out to 3-inch steel screws. Okay, yes?
What if you have double doors?
If you have double doors, you can do similar thing. So you've got your anchor point at the top where the door locks into. Correct. So take those are the same 3/4 inch screws. So take those out and put the 3-inch screws in that also. Okay, because it's the same concept. You still got the stud running across the top. It's just you're going into the top instead of the side.
If you have a glass door, is that what she's talking about?
No, just a double door,
Okay.
where they connect in the middle.
We have a glass door on mine or something, and then we have our door.
Right.
So should he put the 3-inch ones in the?
Put it in your actual wood or steel door. In that frame. Your glass door, I mean, they can always, break out the glass and get through it like that. Okay. But when you think about it, you've got 2, maybe 3 doors that access the outside from your house, correct? Okay. I think a box of those screws, a box of like 30 of them costs something like $15 to $20. That's very.
They're not that expensive.
The last time I looked at Lowe's, that's what they cost me. Yeah, I was kind of shocked myself.
I don't remember paying that much, but that's been a few years.
Yeah. So, when you really think about it, that's cheap, right? I mean, who would ever thought you could make your house that much stronger just by spending, $15 or $20?
Yeah, but you want to get the steel ones, don't let them,
Right.
so the long brass ones.
Exactly. Get the steel screws. Okay. So that accompanied with better lighting around your house is going to be a huge deterrent. There's one apartment complex in the city that I tend to use as an example for lighting security. How many of you are familiar with Villa Creek, the street Villa Creek? Okay, so the apartment's right there at the corner at Villa Creek and Josie. Okay, when they got a new owner and they started fixing them up about a year and a half ago, they went through and they put LED lighting all the way through there. Okay, lit that entire place up. That next 6 months, their crime dropped by 80% with lighting. Okay, because criminals don't want to be seen, do they?
Nope.
They don't.
So
Yes.
what can you do with the windows? I mean, you detain them by entering through the door, but what about the windows?
It's hard to stop them coming through the windows. It really is.
Any device you can put in there, like to trigger some kind of alarm or something like that?
You can put glass break alarms on the windows. The good thing with technology, the way it's getting right now, is there's companies like Simply Safe and different stuff like that, where you're basically your own home security monitor, and they have window monitors that you can stick on there, and if the window comes open and it breaks it, then set the alarm off and go to an alert to your phone. Or they have glass breakage sensors where if it hears a sound that's similar to glass breakage, it'll set off your alarm. Keeping your windows closed, keeping your bushes trimmed around your windows, and keeping them lit up will hopefully deter that, and they'll go somewhere else. They'll look for an easier target. So what is our goal? If you did that on your house, you're going to push them off to the next house, right? Well, if they're your neighbor and they do the same thing, they're going to go to look at the next house. Well, if everyone does it, what are they going to do? They're going to go to another neighborhood, which is hopefully in another city, correct?
I put hollies around under my windows.
Yes,
And that makes a lot of difference.
it does. It does.
You from going through that.
Because who wants to get pricked by them?
Yeah.
No one. I don't. And they don't either. But make sure you keep your bushes by your windows no taller than 3 feet, okay? If that 3 feet happens to be above a windowsill, make sure that you keep them trimmed below the windowsill. Because what does the bush do if it's trimmed, if it's above the windowsill? It hides them. So, and we've seen it several times, they'll break that window that's hidden by the bush and they'll go in and out of the house. They'll go in the house, they'll steal a bunch of stuff, they'll come out and they'll sit it in the bushes. They'll go back in, they'll bring a bunch of stuff out and they'll sit it in the bushes. Then they'll have a car come up and they toss it in the car and they're gone. All that time they were concealed by the bushes. Okay? So that's real important. Your trees outside your house, make sure that the canopy is no lower than 7 feet. because that's going to prevent even the tallest burglar from hiding behind it, right? So, even if you're 6'7", you're not going to be able to hide behind anything. You're going to be clearly seen, and they're going to be able to see you from down the street. So just those few simple things, very inexpensive, and, they'll help your home be more secure. If you want, I do home security inspections, so I can come out to your house. I can look around your house and I can say, hey, this is good, this is good. You might want to increase some security on this side of the house, and go from there, and we can talk about it, and, you can do it in stages, just like you do the go bags. You could do, LED lights this week or this month. The next month, maybe you could, change the screws out. It's not something that you have to do all right at once, but, you work up to it.
I have a question.
Yes.
What about the lights that come on when there's movement? Do you think that's always on or what?
No, those are good. Those are good. And they work just the same. So because as long as there's motion there, the lights are going to be on. Okay. There's a lot of security cameras that are coming out that, have the lights built into the security cameras, and they can send an alert to your phone saying, hey, we detected motion in this deal, and you can actually set an alarm right from your phone. You can talk back and forth to them and everything. Home monitoring systems are great. I kind of like to be able to monitor my own stuff. It's just me. I like to be able to click on my phone and see my cameras and talk back and forth to people and stuff like that. So going on to active shooter situations. Pretty much everyone has a plan for what they're going to do in a fire, emergency, or tornado, right? Or you've at least thought about it in the past, am I correct? Yeah. Have you ever thought about what you would do in an active shooter situation? No? You've never been at the mall and say, hey, that guy looks creepy. If he did start shooting, what would I do? No? Okay. Well, that's what this is for. So, and don't only think about it as only an active shooter situation. It could be, someone going around stabbing people, someone with a bomb. It could apply to many different scenarios. So what we teach is avoid, deny, defend, okay? So avoid the situation if at all possible, okay? And just because you think you're in a room that has one exit, don't think like that. Think out of the box. So if that was the only exit door in this room, well, in here with all the solid walls, it's probably not a good example, but typically the rooms have windows, right? Windows are easily accessible. You can break them. There's chairs. Don't hesitate. Just because that's the only door out, don't think that that's your only way out. Okay. Windows are a lot easier to break than what you might think. These chairs in here would break them very easy. Go towards the corner of the window, and that's typically going to be the easiest place to break the window and get out. Now, if you're in the unfortunate scenario where that's not an option, then deny. Deny them access to where you're at. Barricade doors, lock the doors. If the door opens out and you're in here, then, at least throw some chairs up against it. Put something in between you and that person, okay? Because then again, just like your house, what are you trying to do? Slow them down until police get on scene. And then we can handle the situation from there. Now, if avoid didn't work and deny didn't work, what's the last one? Defend. By any means necessary, okay?
Cock a shotgun.
You could.
That scares you to death.
If you have, I've seen people not be scared by that too. So, if you have that and that's your option, then by all means, do what you need to do. But don't think just because you don't have a firearm that you don't have protection. A lot of females in here, how many objects do you think are in your purse that you could use as a weapon? Your keys, pens, pencils, makeup brushes, anything, that's hard and, could penetrate skin, really. Your fist. Team up with someone. 2, 3, 4 people, yeah, you might get hurt, but, I'd rather be hurt than dead, right? Okay, so at that point, you've got the right to defend yourself, and, whatever, you use to improvise to make that happen, that's great, okay? I'm going to show you a video that I show everyone. I go around the city teaching active shooter. I've taught probably 1,600 people the last year and a half. And I show this video to everyone. And then if we have any questions after that, then feel free to ask, okay?
There's a gunman inside the store. We need help now.
Do anything last weekend? It was very nice, wasn't it?
Right about it is the new system enhancement. What's going to be the solution by the time we...
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. I actually think he's got he's got a truck. I don't know if your daughter would be interested. Now, she figured out what college she wants to go to.
911, what's your emergency? We need help. There's a gunman inside the store. He's shooting the place up. We need help now.
Issues that we found. Okay, Emily, see what that is. See what's going on. Just let us know what you find out.
There's a man with a gun. He's right there.
What's the wall? Lights. Okay.
Right down. There you go. You're safe for that.
This guy with the gun is shooting. Look!
James, we don't have
No, look!
Run! 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 To the right! To the right! To the loading dock! Come on, this way, this way, this way!
Oh, no, come here.
Yeah, in here, in here. The gunman's coming.
What are we gonna do?
We're gonna have to defend ourselves.
I can't do this.
You're gonna see your daughter tonight, okay? We are all going to go home tonight, all right? We have a right to defend ourselves. Get the gun! Get the gun! Hey! Hold him down, hold him down!
Come on. Gosh, I'm just so glad you're okay.
Yes, we're all gonna go home. Everybody's going home. Yeah.
If you ever have the misfortune to be in an active shooter event, you deserve to survive. In our research, we have found that the actions that potential victims take during these events are critical to their survival. We have identified 3 options that have proven effective in many events. These are: avoid the attacker, deny the attacker access to your area, defend yourself. It is a personal decision, but you have a right to do so. Avoiding the attacker starts with being aware of your surroundings at all times and knowing what is going on around you. If you see or hear something that looks suspicious, take action. For example, the stalker took immediate and effective action to protect himself when he observed the shooter pulling out weapons from the bag. Others, however, hesitated, and this hesitation can cost them valuable time that they could have used to get away from the threat. If you hear something that is, or could be, gunfire, start trying to get away from it as soon as possible. Gunfire has a distinctive sound. Inside of buildings, the sound can be muffled or distorted. A single loud bang could be a person dropping something, or even thunder. But repeated loud bangs are much more likely to be gunfire. Additionally, look at the reaction of others. Are they startled or scared? Are they running? What are they saying? Any one of these events individually may create denial, but when put together should create a heightened awareness and stimulate an immediate response. It is important that you know how to get out. The situation will be chaotic and rapidly changing. In general, you will want to go to the nearest exit. But you must also understand that the closest exit may not be accessible or safe to use. If this is the case, go to a different exit. While avoiding the threat, consider the uses of cover and concealment. Cover offers protection from gunfire, while concealment minimizes your exposure to the attacker. Try to keep objects between you and the attacker. If you can't avoid the attacker, sometimes the best option will be to deny the attacker access to your location. In many locations, this can be accomplished by closing and locking a door, such as they did in the meeting room. Locking the door has proven effective in many attacks. If the door does not have a lock, you can place heavy objects in front of it. Remember, barricades work best if the door opens toward you. If it doesn't, use things that are readily available, such as straps, belts, or objects that can be used to block or secure the door to make it difficult for the attacker to enter the room. This may at least slow the attacker down and give you time to identify alternate means of escape, such as adjoining rooms or windows. When attempting to deny access to your location, you want to make it appear that there is no one in your area. Lock doors, turn off the lights, silence your phones, and get out of sight. Your attempt to deny the attacker access to your location might fail.
The gunman's coming.
What are we gonna do?
We're gonna have to defend ourselves.
Have a backup plan about what you will do. In many cases, this may be to defend yourself. You need to be in a place where you can act if the attacker comes into your location. In most rooms, you will line up against the same wall that the door is on, near the door so you can react, but not directly in front of it. If you are unable to avoid or deny, your best option may be to defend yourself by using whatever is available. In a situation where someone is attempting to kill you, you have the legal right to defend yourself. Attack weak spots such as eyes, throat, and groin. Fight to the best of your ability and do not quit until the attacker is stopped. This is what the workers in the warehouse did when they were unable to avoid the attacker and felt their lives were in immediate danger. Whatever option you choose, call 911 as soon as you are in a safe location. Provide any information that you know. The operator will ask you a lot of questions. If you don't know the answer, don't guess. Just say you don't know and only state the facts.
I'm not sure. There's 3 of us in the room. We're on the...
This will be a complex situation, and we can't tell you what you should do in every case. What we can do is provide you with information about the options that we have found to be most effective for surviving these attacks. The ultimate choice is yours. What you do matters. Avoid the attacker. Deny access to your location. Defend yourself. Law enforcement will be entering a chaotic scene with limited information. Their first priority will be to stop the threat to your safety. The police may not know where or who the threat is. Listen and comply with their commands immediately.
Put it down, sir. Put it down. Both of you on the ground.
Police are trained to look at people's hands to assess threats. Do not have anything in your hands that could be perceived as a weapon, such as a cell phone.
Show me your hands, sir. Show me your hands. Move to us. Everybody, keep your hands up, please. Walk out the door.
If told to do so, stay where you are and do not make sudden movements. Again, follow all commands. Remember, what you do matters. Avoid the attacker. Deny access to your location. Defend yourself. Remember, ADD. You can survive.
All right. So the whole point of this is to get you thinking, right? Get you, when you're at your house, when you're at your place of work, when you're, walking down the hall at your favorite store. Think about options that you have when you're there. Hey, this is how I could leave. This is, my best way out. This is, an alternative to that. Just start looking around and thinking about that, because you never know what's going to happen, do you? I mean, who knows? A car could come driving through the front door and you need a way out quick. It could help you in a fire. Place catches on fire and hey, the fire's towards the front of the store. Well, I've already identified this exit back here. So it can help you in a lot of different situations, okay? But we just want you thinking about that. And just because it goes in the order avoid, deny, defend, don't think that you can't jump out of that order. You might have to go to defend first, depending on where you're at when it happens. You might go to deny and then back to avoid. But just kind of get that in your head and start thinking about it. And once you have a mental preparation, then if you ever come into that scenario, what's going to happen? You're going to revert back to what you've prepared for, right? Okay. Do you have any questions? None? All right. All right. Well, I know we kept y'all here a little bit later than what we had planned, so. All right. Thanks for staying. All right.